Peace, family. As you all know by now, I'm always talking about black people building their own independent businesses, industries, and institutions to govern their own way of life. And of course, you get these white trolls coming on my page attacking this concept. For some reason, they believe that after 400-500 years of being up under white authoritarian rule, being last in every statistical category that governs over our quality of life, blacks still should not have a means, an eternal means to educate their own children, feed their own families, employ their own people, govern themselves, finance their own ambition. They still resist this simple ideology, and they attribute it to the fact that for some reason they want to just hold on to this notion that Africans sold Africans to whites. And it's sad. But I help you make your argument. Let's say Africans did sell Africans to whites. And when you see the result of this transaction, why should black people today still be up under white authoritarian rule? If Africans sold their own people to whites, did that give whites the excuse to enslave, to rape, to lynch, to cannibalize, to terrorize? Does that give them an excuse? But they still hold on, and the sad part is white people are still in charge of black people today. And these white people that are talking about integrating with them, being one, colors that used to divide us, we should all come together. These the same people who are talking about what the enslavers did. They backing the enslavers, but then want to be like they're not the enslavers. Well, if you're not like the enslavers, if you're not like your forefathers, or if your forefathers never had owned slaves, why are you supporting their cause then? Why are you sitting up and saying blacks sold blacks to whites? And especially to these trolls who claim their family never owned slaves. Even they still cling to this notion. As I said all the time, there isn't a nickel's worth of difference between whites of 500 years ago and whites today. They're just as cruel, vicious as their predecessors were. This is why I stress over and over again, and I'm going to say it until the day I die. Black people, we need to come together and build our own independent means to employ, educate, feed, house, provide our essential services. When you look at white people today, still glorifying this false notion that blacks sold their own people, despite no evidence to that. Jesse Lee Peterson is a sellout, a Sambo. He sits up here and touts on this page that black people built nothing. White people are the only ones to build. But you can't tell me anything that white people built that black people wasn't around. Just point me in a direction. You ain't got to tell me the city, the state, whatever. Just point me in the direction that white people built their own temples, created their own society, created their own cultural order, all by themselves, without no help from nobody else. Just do that. But they can't. Everything, this is why white people cling to this. because it's the only excuse they have for so-called coming up with these things, because they've been stealing it from our people. Without us, there is no them. They brutally enslaved their own people. And the only reason why they stopped is because they started brutally enslaving our people. Can you imagine if blacks did what I suggested and built their own independent means to sustain their way of life, segregated their community from them, and left these whites to deal with their own problems? They'll destroy themselves. They've been calling us savages and beasts and all this other stuff, but in reality, they're projectionists. They're trying to project their nature onto us. We can go back to a state where we had our African proverbs, which spoke of the nature of black people before whites got there. These African proverbs spoke of us working as a community. A village raised a child, many hands made light work. Many spiders can bind a lion. These are things of unity, support, love. Just show me in comparison what white people was doing at the same time blacks was creating these African proverbs. Show me the laws that blacks passed that kept blacks enslaved. Show me the transactions where blacks were selling blacks to just everybody. Show me why they decided to sell blacks to whites whom they never saw, never met before. Why would you include these people in this transaction? They can do none of these things, but yet they want to try to put this notion off on blacks as if that really has anything to do with today. So what if they did do this 400-500 years ago? Blacks are last in every statistical category that governs over their way of life today. Why should we continue this trend? Why should we continue integrating with whites? Why should we continue having these people decide our economic, our political, our social, our industrial, our future ambitions? I'm gonna give it to you. Blacks sold blacks to whites. Okay, now why should we continue? Tell me what hope do black people have today that white people are going to start doing what's right by black people, and we no longer be last in every statistical category? What laws, what legislation have they come up with? Tell me something. I'm gonna give you the fact that blacks sold blacks into slavery, and once they got into your hands, were their conditions better or worse? This is ridiculous. But I continue putting pressure on these fools. But I'm gonna end this video here. And if you like this message, if you like this content, and if you like this pressure that I put on our oppressor, put a little pressure on that follow, subscribe, and share button, and catch me in my next video. Ashe.